Snow still clung to her hair when Evelyn Hart stumbled into the street, her newborn pressed to her chest, the indigo cloth already stiff with blood. Behind her, the mob that failed to hang her just hours earlier gathered again, angrier, louder, certain God himself wanted the child taken from her. "Grab the baby," someone yelled. "She shouldn't have lived through the night." Evelyn braced herself. She was too weak to run, too cold to even beg. Then a gunshot split the morning. Not at her, but at the rope someone had slipped around her arm. A black rancher stepped through the drifting snow, his voice low enough to freeze the crowd in place. "Touch that woman or her child, and you answer to me." They thought he was bluffing. They learned different before noon. Stay with me until the end, and comment the city you're watching from, so I know how far this story travels. Snow bit through the thin cotton of her dress long before the rope touched her neck. Evelyn Hart's boots slipped on the frozen boards as they dragged her up onto the scaffold in front of the Stillwater Ridge church. Her wrists burned where the irons had rubbed the skin raw. A breath of wind cut down Main Street, carrying pine, chimney smoke, and the bitter smell of fear. She tasted blood where her lip had split against the jailhouse floor. When it hit the snow at the base of the platform, it made a dark star that wouldn't stop spreading. Someone in the crowd laughed. "Look at her belly," a woman hissed. "She's with child, and still killed her husband." A man answered, "Hang her before Christmas Eve service. Let the Lord see we keep our town clean." Church bells tolled once, twice, 3 times. Each strike rolled down her spine like another knot in the rope. Evelyn stared past them all at the small wooden cross on the church roof. The morning sky behind it was the color of old bruises, gray and purple and mean. Snowflakes clung to the edges of the cross like ash. "Lord," she thought, not bothering to move her lips, "if you're still looking this way, see him. Not me. See the child." The baby turned inside her, a slow roll of weight low in her belly. Pain bit sharp along her side. The world tilted. She widened her stance, fighting the urge to fold in half. "Move, widow," Deputy Clay Vane muttered behind her. The toe of his boot hit the back of her leg. "We ain't got all day." She straightened on instinct. If she went to her knees, they'd call it begging. She would not beg them. Not these people who'd bought their Christmas oranges and ribbons from her shop, then turned their faces away when they passed the same window yesterday. The sheriff unrolled a damp sheet of paper. He cleared his throat, trying to sound like the judge who'd refused to ride out in the snow. "By order of the Territory Court," Sheriff Calhoun called, "Evelyn Hart, you stand convicted of poisoning your lawful husband, Thomas Hart, with malice, aforethought." The crowd swelled closer. Men in stiff Sunday coats, women with scarves tied tight over their ears, children lifted up to see better, little boots dangling above the trampled snow. "And of bringing shame upon this town by lying with a man not your husband and carrying his bastard child." They murmured at that word. It was the word that had turned neighbors into a mob. Not murderer. Bastard. Evelyn let her eyes drop to her hands. The irons were gone now. They'd left marks like bruised cuffs on her skin. In her right fist, she still clutched a strip of dark indigo cloth, folded and refolded until the edges had gone warm and damp from her palm. The baby's blanket, the only thing she'd had time to snatch when they burst into her room. She focused on that sliver of blue, not on the faces. "Do you have anything to say, Widow Hart?" the sheriff asked. She could feel Odessa Vane watching from the front of the crowd, gloved hands folded around a white fur muff, eyes sharp as a hawk's. The banker's widow who wanted their little patch of land down by the creek, the one who'd smiled at her the day Thomas went into the ground. Snow gathered along the brim of Odessa's hat, but never seemed to stick. Evelyn inhaled once, shallow. The cold burned her chest. Her breath left in a thin white thread. "I didn't kill my husband," she said. Her voice didn't shake. "And this child is not a sin." Clay snorted. "Ain't no husband standing here to claim it." Laughter broke across the square. Someone shouted, "Then God can claim her himself." The sheriff shifted, uncomfortable. "Enough," he muttered. "Let's be done." Clay slipped the noose over her head. The rough hemp scraped the tender skin beneath her ear. He tightened it, then stepped back to the lever. The world narrowed to the weight of the rope, the give of the boards under her boots, the slow, insistent roll of the baby under her ribs. Church bells started again. 1, 2. She thought of last Christmas. Candlelight in the tiny church. Thomas singing off-key beside her, hat in his hands. Eyes closed as the congregation hummed, "Silent Night." His shoulder warm against hers. His palm resting, gentle and proud, over the small swell of her belly that only he had noticed. "Trust the Lord, Evie," he'd whispered then. "He don't waste nothin'." 3, 4. If the Lord had not wasted Thomas, then surely he would not waste their child. "Father," she thought, eyes on the wooden cross, "if these are my last steps, let them not be this child's." Clay wrapped his fingers around the lever. Hoofbeats rolled faint through the snow. She heard them before anybody else did, a low rhythm under the bell's toll. Her spine recognized it. Years of listening for riders outside the shop door so she could lift her head and smile before the bell above it rang. The sheriff glanced toward the sound, squinting into the white haze drifting up the street. "Who in—" Clay jerked the lever. A gunshot split the cold. The plank under her feet jolted but did not drop. The rope went slack against her throat. One of the support pins behind her had shattered into splinters, smoke curling from the fresh break. The crowd screamed and ducked. A child started crying. Horses reared at the hitching rail. Evelyn's knees hit the boards. She caught herself on one hand, snow crystals stinging as they melted into her scraped skin. A rider pushed through the parting bodies as if he'd been expected all along. He sat a black horse big enough to look like a shadow carved out of night. Snow dusted the animal's mane and the brim of the man's hat. His coat was long and dark, shoulders broad, collar turned up against the wind. A thin scar ran from his jaw to the corner of his mouth, white against his skin. Black. Not just his horse. Him. Isaiah Cole reined in at the foot of the scaffold, and the square went so quiet she could hear the church bell's next lonely strike. He holstered his pistol like the shot had been nothing at all. "Sheriff," he said. His voice carried easy in the cold air. "You got business with my family this morning?" Clay spat near his own boot. "Ain't your family up there, Cole?" Isaiah's gaze went to Evelyn. It pinned her as firmly as the noose had. He took in the rope, the belly, the bruises, the strip of blue cloth still clutched in her fist. Something in his eyes changed. Not soft, just decided. He nudged the horse closer until he was almost beneath the trap door. "The next man who lays a hand on that woman," he said, every word flat as an oath, "answers to me." No one moved. He tipped his hat back a fraction. "She's with child," he went on. "And if she's expectin'." He let the words hang in the frozen air, long enough for every soul in Stillwater Ridge to lean toward him without meaning to. "I'm the father." The square didn't breathe. Snow drifted between Isaiah Cole and the men holding the rope, slow as ash from a dying fire. Clay Vane's hand froze on the lever. Sheriff Calhoun's mouth worked, but no sound came out. Even the church bell seemed to choke on its next toll. Evelyn stayed on her knees. Her pulse hammered in her ears, louder than the wind, louder than the murmurs crawling through the crowd. Isaiah swung down from the saddle. Boots hit the snow with a hollow thud. He didn't hurry. He didn't need to. People stepped back without thinking, opening a path to the scaffold like the Red Sea pulling apart. "Mr. Cole," the sheriff finally managed. Isaiah lifted a gloved hand. The sheriff stopped mid-breath. "I said," Isaiah repeated, "she's with me." Clay barked a laugh too sharp, too loud. "Ain't nobody believin' that. Widow Hart hasn't said a word about you. Not once." Isaiah didn't look at Clay. His eyes stayed on Evelyn. Snowflakes clung to her lashes in trembling lines. A thin thread of red slid from the corner of her mouth where the cold had cracked her skin again. Her shoulders heaved once, not from sobbing, she hadn't shed a tear, but from the strain of staying upright with the rope brushing her collarbone. "Ma'am," Isaiah said quietly, "can you stand?" Her fingers tightened around the indigo cloth. She pushed one boot against the slick boards. Her legs shook. The rope creaked. She didn't move high enough to lift her weight from it. Isaiah took the last step up onto the platform. Clay flinched. "Back off, Cole. She ain't yours." Isaiah didn't even glance his way. He reached up, pinched the noose near the knot, and lifted it just enough to free her throat from its scrape. Evelyn drew a breath she hadn't planned on taking. It burned all the way down. "Easy," Isaiah murmured. "I'm right here." She stared at him. It made no sense. Not the voice, not the stillness of him, not the way her name, her real name, sounded when he'd said it earlier. Not the way the baby shifted as if turning toward the heat of his body. "Sheriff," Isaiah said again, calm as if discussing cattle weights. "Release her, now." Calhoun swallowed. Wet, loud. "Cole, you can't just walk in an execution like—" "It isn't an execution." Isaiah's tone didn't rise. It didn't need to. "Not without the father present. And you've got him." Odessa Vane pushed through the front row, her white gloves bright in the gray morning. "This is absurd. That woman is a liar, a serpent, and a burden on this town. You expect us to believe her bastard belongs to—" Isaiah looked at her. Just looked. The silence that followed had weight. It pressed down on the crowd like a door being shut. Odessa's mouth thinned. Her hand curled tighter around her muff. "We have laws," she said. "Shame is not washed away by a black man's claim." A murmur ran through the crowd, uneasy, splintering, half from her words, half from the fact that she'd said them too boldly in a moment already trembling with God's cold eye. Isaiah didn't blink. "Ma'am," he said, "you mind your tongue." Clay shoved his hat back. "You think being some Buffalo Soldier makes you something, Cole? She ain't got a husband, and she sure as sin ain't got you." Isaiah stepped between Clay and Evelyn like it was the most natural thing in the world. "I'm here," he said simply. "That's enough." Evelyn felt her grip loosen on the indigo cloth. Her vision blurred at the edges. Not from tears, not from fear, but from a sudden wash of heat that didn't belong to the winter morning. "Isaiah," she whispered. She didn't know why she said his name. It slipped out like a breath she'd been holding for months. Clay's face reddened. "She's lying. She slept with no man after Thomas died. Everybody knows she—" Isaiah's jaw tightened just once, a muscle ticking like a match being struck. He leaned in, voice low enough only Clay could hear. "You don't speak her name again." Clay's hand twitched toward his gun. Isaiah didn't go for his own. His hands stayed loose at his sides, as if daring Clay to test God on Christmas week. Sheriff Calhoun stepped forward fast, sweat shining at his temples despite the cold. "Enough! Enough of this!" He looked between Evelyn, Isaiah, and the angry, shifting crowd. "Cole, if you're claiming paternity, the law requires we hand her over to your custody for the child's protection." Odessa stiffened. "You will not." "I will," Calhoun snapped, surprising even himself. "Before this turns into blood across the snow." Isaiah touched the noose again, lifting it free. He slid it off Evelyn's head, slow and steady, as if every frayed fiber was something that could cut her. His fingertips brushed her cheek, not soft, just sure, then moved away. Evelyn's legs folded. He caught her before her knees hit wood. Her breath left her in a sharp gasp. His coat smelled faintly of iron, smoke, and winter pine. The crowd stirred but didn't dare approach. Isaiah shifted her weight against his chest, like she weighed no more than the blanket she carried. "I'm taking her home," he told the sheriff. "You'll send any papers you think you got." "Cole." Calhoun hesitated. "The town won't like this." Isaiah's eyes were on the road leading out of Stillwater Ridge. "They ain't the ones I answer to." He adjusted his hold on Evelyn. She clutched the indigo cloth against her belly, breath trembling in the hollow of his shoulder. Lord, she thought, dizzy, don't let this be another man arriving too late. Isaiah turned toward his horse. Snow fell harder, blurring the faces, the ropes, the church cross, until all she could see was his back, broad, unyielding, a wall between her and death. Behind them, Odessa's voice, cracked like ice breaking over a river. This isn't over, Mr. Cole. She will hang. Isaiah didn't slow. No, ma'am, he said. She won't. And with that, he carried Evelyn Hart out of the square where they'd meant to end her life, into a winter that suddenly felt just wide enough for God to work a miracle. Snow hammered the open road as Isaiah Cole rode out of Stillwater Ridge with Evelyn Hart held tight against his chest. The wind clawed at his coat, snapping the hem like a warning. Behind them, the bell over the church struck once more, soft, distant, uncertain, like a question God hadn't answered yet. Evelyn kept her eyes open only because sleep felt too much like dying. Her cheek rested against Isaiah's collar, rough wool scraping her skin. His heartbeat thudded steady under the fabric, a slow, stubborn rhythm that didn't belong to the panic clawing up her ribs. The child rolled again, sharp, heavy, a jolt that forced a gasp from her throat. Isaiah's arm tightened. Easy now, ma'am. Don't, her voice cracked. Don't call me that. He adjusted her weight without breaking stride. Snow churned beneath the horse's hooves. Evelyn, then. Something in the way he said her name, a carefulness, not softness, sent heat through the cold in her bones. Behind them, two riders peeled off the road, shadows slipping into the falling snow. Clay's men. She knew it before Isaiah spoke a word. You feel that? He asked. Yes. He didn't look back. Didn't need to. They're following. Closing in. Evelyn drew a shuddering breath. Then leave me. If they take me, they stop chasing you. Isaiah didn't waste a second answering. No. It's the baby they want dead, she whispered. Odessa won't stop. No, he said again, firmer, a door shutting. And I ain't stoppin' either. Thunder, no hoofbeats, echoed faint through the storm. Getting closer, Isaiah leaned forward, urging the black horse faster. The beast surged like it understood everything at stake. Hold on to me, he ordered. Evelyn's fingers curled into his coat on instinct. The fabric was cold. The man beneath it wasn't. They tore across the ridge, snow whipping at their faces. The sky lowered, heavy with more storm. The world narrowed to breath, hooves, and the throb in Evelyn's belly. Isaiah, she managed. I don't know how long I can. You'll hold, he said, Lord willing. Her vision flickered. White, black, white. The cold stung her eyes, but she refused to look away from his back, from the dark line of his jaw when the wind shifted. Another contraction clenched down hard. Evelyn bit the inside of her cheek to keep from crying out. Isaiah heard the breath hitch anyway. How far apart? She forced the words out. Minutes. I don't know. His jaw set. Snow gathered in the crease of his hat brim, unmoving. We stop ahead, he said. Shelter. No. She shook her head weakly. They'll catch us. They'll catch us if you fall, he answered. And you're fallen. A burst of heat burned her throat. Shame, anger, fear all tangled. I'm not weak. Didn't say you were, he replied. Said you're breaking. Difference. She hated that he was right. A lantern glow flickered through the wall of white. Dim, wavering, but real. A hunter's shack, half buried in drifts. The door leaned off its hinges, snow crawling inside like a living thing. Isaiah pulled the horse hard left and slid to a stop beside it. He dismounted in one fluid motion, boots sinking deep. Then he reached up and gathered her into his arms. Her body left the saddle without effort. He handled her like she was something breakable, though nothing in her life had ever been treated that way. The cold hit her face first. The pain hit next. Her knees buckled. Isaiah caught her again. I got you. Inside the shack, the air was barely warmer, but at least the wind couldn't claw through the boards. Isaiah laid her on a pile of old wool blankets. He shrugged out of his coat and draped it over her. The shadows inside flickered with each breath of the storm. Stay awake, he said. Her eyelids fluttered. Hard to. I know. He knelt beside her. Snow melted on his shoulders and ran in dark trails down the fabric. Ike. She hadn't meant to say it. It slipped out the way prayers do when there's no time to think. His head lowered, just enough to hear her. Yes, ma'am. If they catch us, don't let them touch the baby. They won't. His voice was low iron. Ain't nobody takin' what's mine. She sucked in a sharp breath, the words carving straight through her chest. Don't say that unless it truly is. He didn't hesitate. It is. Her heart kicked against her ribs. For one blinking second, the pain dimmed. Isaiah, we never... He touched 2 fingers to her lips, not gentle, just certain. We ain't talking history right now. We're talking survival. Another contraction hit, harder. She arched with it, gasping. The indigo cloth crumpled in her fist. Isaiah pressed his hand to her belly. Easy. Breathe. The door rattled. Hoofbeats, voices. Clay's men. Evelyn's trembling worsened. Isaiah, I hear him. He stood slowly, rolling his shoulders back, every inch of him turning to steel. Through the crack in the door, torchlight flickered across the snow. Isaiah drew his pistol, not raised, not aimed, just drawn. He looked down at Evelyn, her breath sharp, her fingers white around the cloth meant for the child. By God, he said quietly, you and that baby ain't dying in a shack today. Lightning cracked behind his eyes. Not fear, not rage, something older and heavier. He stepped toward the door. Outside, boots crunched closer. Inside, the temperature seemed to rise. Not from fire, but from a man choosing which laws he would break to keep a promise. Stay awake, Isaiah told her one last time. Then he opened the door. Wind punched into the shack the moment Isaiah Cole opened the door. Snow swirled in around him, twisting like silver dust in the dark. Torchlight flared against the storm, throwing jagged shadows across his coat and the scar on his jaw. 3 riders stood in the clearing. Clay Vane's men, shoulders hunched, hats pulled low against the cold. Their horses snorted clouds into the night. "Cole," the first man said, raising his torch. "Hand her over." Isaiah didn't move, didn't blink, didn't bother lifting his gun. "She's with me," he said. The second man laughed into the wind. "Ain't nobody with you. Clay says she's coming back. Says the gallows wasn't finished doing its job." Isaiah stepped out onto the snow. The storm bit at him, but he didn't flinch. "You don't want to do this," he told them. The torchbearer lifted his chin. "We want her." Isaiah tilted his head slightly. "Then you'll answer to me." The man spat into the snow. "Black man talking like he owns something. You ain't law here." Isaiah let the pistol hang loose at his side. Snow gathered in his eyelashes, unmoving. "I ain't law," he said. "I'm consequence." The men shifted in their saddles. A faint groan rose from inside the shack. Evelyn, fighting another contraction she couldn't hold back. The sound was soft, but not soft enough. Clay's man heard it. His eyes sharpened. "Labor, hell. She's close." He grinned. "Easy to finish her now." Isaiah's jaw flexed. "That's your last step," he warned. The man nudged his horse forward. Isaiah fired one shot. The bullet hit the snow between the horse's front hooves, spraying white powder into the air. The animal reared, screaming. The rider struggled to hold on, cursing. Isaiah didn't fire again. "Next one," he said, voice low. "Won't miss." The men stared at the crater smoking in the snow. "Clay ain't letting this go," the second man hissed. "I ain't asking him to," Isaiah answered. "I'm telling you to ride home while you still can." The third man tugged his reins. Fear flickered in his eyes. "This ain't worth dying in a blizzard." "No," Isaiah agreed. "It ain't." Torchlight shook. Snow thickened. For a moment the storm swallowed all sound except the ragged breathing of the horses. Then the third rider jerked his chin. "We go." The first 2 hesitated. Only a heartbeat. Only a breath. But it was enough to show the fear had cracked them. They wheeled their horses and vanished into the white like spirits scattering from a grave. Silence dropped hard. Isaiah lowered the pistol but didn't holster it. He turned back toward the shack. Inside, Evelyn fought for air. Her knuckles had gone white around the indigo cloth, twisting it until the threads cut into her skin. Sweat shone along her hairline, though the air was cold enough to freeze breath mid-air. She tried to sit up. Pain curled her, forward. "Lord," she whispered, just wait till morning." Isaiah knelt beside her, snow melting in rivulets down his coat, dripping beside her cheek. "Mornin' ain't comin' quick enough." Her breath shuddered. "They'll return." I know. And Odessa, she'll send more. He brushed the wet hair from her temple with the back of his hand. Doesn't matter. She looked up at him then, really looked. His eyes were dark as turned earth, steady as anvil iron in a blacksmith's hand. No panic, no doubt. Just a terrible, immovable certainty. Isaiah, she said, breathing through her teeth, why are you doing this? He didn't answer at first. The storm whistled against the shack walls like a hymn pulled out of tune. Then, quietly, he said, because I wasn't there last time. She blinked. Pain cracked through her belly again. Last time. Isaiah's jaw clenched, a flicker of memory cutting across his face like a blade. I came too late, he murmured. A woman I should have protected. A child who never took a first breath. Rode into camp and found grief where I was meant to be. Something cold and warm at once spread through Evelyn's chest. She swallowed. Isaiah. He shook his head once, dismissing the ghosts. Not again. Not you. Not this baby. Her throat tightened. The world blurred. I don't deserve... He leaned in. You deserve breath. A contraction slammed through her. She folded forward, a broken gasp ripping from her lungs. Isaiah slid his coat beneath her back, lifting her gently, settling her on the thickest part of the blankets. Breathe slow, he said. I've seen births in worse places than this. She gritted her teeth, sweat beading at her brow. You don't know me. I know enough. What? What do you know? His hand steadied her shoulder. I know you didn't kill your husband. I know the Lord don't give life just to have men snatch it away. And I know this child ain't going into the ground. A tear slipped from the corner of her eye. She didn't wipe it. He did. Not softly, just sure. A thundering boom cracked through the storm. Both froze. It wasn't thunder. It was a rifle. Isaiah rose in one fluid motion. His pistol was already in his hand. Isaiah, Evelyn whispered, stay down. Bootsteps crunched outside, slow, heavy, deliberate. Clay Vane's voice slid through the wind. Cole, he drawled, you think you won something tonight? Isaiah stepped between Evelyn and the door, casting her in shadow. I ain't here to win, he said. I'm here to finish. Clay laughed. It was a sharp, ugly sound swallowed by snow. Then let's finish. Evelyn clutched the indigo cloth to her chest. The baby rolled, a fierce, frightened kick. She whispered through clenched teeth, Lord, keep us in your hands. Isaiah Cole squared his shoulders. Outside, Clay cocked his rifle. Inside, Evelyn's breath hitched as another wave of pain rose like a breaking tide. Isaiah didn't turn, didn't blink, didn't breathe. He just stepped forward into the line of fire, as if God himself had drawn the shape of this night before either man was born. The rifle cracked again. Wood splintered from the door frame, spraying the shack with shards that glittered like knives in the lamplight. Isaiah didn't flinch. He stood between Evelyn and the storm, his shoulders filling the narrow doorway, his pistol lowered but ready, always ready. Clay's breath steamed in the cold outside. Snow spun wild around his silhouette, torchlight throwing long, jagged shadows behind him. "Come on out, Cole," Clay called. "Quit hiding behind a woman who ain't worth the rope they meant to use." Isaiah didn't rise to the bait. "You're shaking," he said quietly. "Storm getting to you?" Clay spat. "Storm ain't what's gonna kill you." Inside, Evelyn braced herself against another contraction, her nails digging into Isaiah's coat still bunched beneath her. Pain sliced downward, quick and deep. Her breath broke into pieces. "Isaiah," she gasped. "I know." His voice didn't shake, but his jaw did, just once. "Keep breathing, Evelyn." "I can't." "Yes, you can." Another shot tore through the doorway. Isaiah shifted his body fractionally, taking the angle, blocking her without her even seeing how he moved. Snow hissed as the bullet buried itself into the far wall. Clay laughed again. "She ain't dying in there 'cause of poison this time. She'll bleed out on them dirty blankets, and I'll put the child in the ground myself." The storm howled. Evelyn's eyes flew wide. The baby rolled hard, frantic, alive, afraid. Isaiah's breath left him in one silent exhale. That was the line. He stepped forward. Clay raised the rifle. Isaiah fired first. The shot hit Clay's sleeve, tearing a strip of fabric and skin. Clay stumbled back, cursing. The torch in his left hand flared wildly. Isaiah didn't fire again. He wanted Clay conscious, wanted him aware. "Next one goes through your knee," Isaiah warned, "and you'll meet your mama crawling." Clay bared his teeth. "You think you're some savior? You think claiming that woman makes you a man?" Isaiah didn't answer. He didn't have to. Clay's hatred churned hot enough to melt the snow beneath his boots. "Odessa says she hangs. And when Odessa wants something, the town hands it over." Isaiah's eyes darkened. "Not tonight." "You can't protect her," Clay shouted. "Not her, not the brat, not even your own damn ranch. We'll burn you off the map." Isaiah stepped outside fully now, snow swallowing him up to the ankles, coat whipping behind him. The cold didn't even touch him. "Clay," he said, "you try to take that child, and you'll answer to every breath I've got left." Clay cocked the rifle again. Inside the shack, Evelyn bit down on a cry. Sweat rolled into her eyes, blurring the boards above her. The world tilted. "Lord," she whispered, "don't let him fall for me. Not for me." Footsteps crunched. Not Clay's. 3, 4. More men were coming through the trees. Shadows merged with the storm. Torchlight bobbed like evil little stars. Clay grinned, blood on his sleeve. "Told you. Town's with me." Isaiah didn't look back at Evelyn. Didn't let her see fear she didn't need. But his fingers flexed on the gun. He wasn't outnumbered. He was simply out of time. "Reckon we drag her out," Clay said, "and let the cold finish what it started." A moan ripped from Evelyn. Pain, terror, instinct, all tangled. "Isaiah!" He moved faster than the torchlight could catch. He grabbed the door, slammed it shut, and dropped the crossbar into place so hard the wall shook. "Hold on," he told her. The men outside pounded against the wood. The whole shack shuddered. Evelyn curled forward, clutching the indigo cloth against her belly. I can't do this alone." "You ain't alone. Isaiah, I'm here." Her breath hitched again as another contraction seized her, harsher, deeper, like a hand twisting inside her. A cry tore from her throat. Isaiah dropped to his knees beside her. "Evelyn." He cupped the side of her face with his cold palm. "Look at me." She forced her eyes open. "You're gonna live," he said. "You hear me? You and that child." "I can't." "You can." "I'm not strong enough." "You are." A boot hit the door so hard dust rained from the rafters. Clay's voice thundered through the cracks. "We're coming in, dead or alive." Isaiah stood again. His face went stone hard. He blew out the lantern flame with one sharp breath. Darkness swallowed the shack. Snow and torchlight leaked only through the cracks. Evelyn's pulse roared in her ears. Isaiah rested a hand on the door. Then, quietly, he prayed, "Lord, you take what you must, but don't take them. Not tonight." He pulled the hammer back on his pistol, slow, steady, final. Outside, the men shouted. Inside, Evelyn cried out as the child surged low, fierce, demanding the world. Isaiah opened the door. Again. Not to surrender. To choose the battlefield. Stormlight lit his figure, a tall shadow carved out of winter and judgment. He stepped into the snow, gun raised, spine straight, ready to meet whatever hell Odessa Vane had paid for, ready to buy Evelyn Hart and her unborn child another breath with his own blood if he had to. The first man lunged. Isaiah fired. The gunshot lit the snow like lightning. A man toppled backward into the drift, torch spinning out of his hand. Shadows lunged. Boots thundered. The storm swallowed their shouts and hurled them back, warped and hollow, like ghosts arguing in the rafters of an empty church. Isaiah Cole didn't move from the doorway. He fired once more, clean, controlled, a warning through the arm of the second man. Blood spattered across the snow, a red smear in the white. "Fall back," someone yelled, but no one did. Clay Vane pushed forward instead, rifle leveled, breath clawing out of him like smoke. His coat snapped in the wind, snow clinging to the fabric. "You're dead, Cole," Clay roared. "Ain't no man stands against this town." Isaiah's voice cut through the storm, low as a church bell under the floorboards. "I ain't standin' for the town." He stepped forward into the full storm. "I'm standin' for her." Clay fired. Isaiah dropped his shoulder, the bullet slicing the air where his head had been a breath earlier. He fired back, striking Clay's rifle, sending it spinning into the snow. Clay cursed, leaping toward him with a knife drawn. Inside the shack, Evelyn cried out again, pain tearing through her, fierce, relentless. She gripped the indigo cloth so hard it left its weave imprinted in her palm. "Isaiah," she gasped through clenched teeth. "Hurry, please, hurry!" But Isaiah didn't hear her. Or maybe he did. Maybe that was why he moved like a man who'd already buried too many things. Clay lunged. Isaiah blocked him, steel against steel, hands locking around Clay's wrist. The knife skidded, flashing under torchlight. The storm whipped the flames sideways, bending them like reeds. Clay snarled, breath thick with hatred. "She's gonna die tonight, Cole. You ain't stoppin'." Isaiah slammed his fist into Clay's ribs. Clay buckled. Isaiah drove an elbow into his jaw. Bone cracked beneath the blow. Clay crashed to his knees, spitting blood onto the snow. "I told you," Isaiah said, voice hard as frozen earth. "You don't say her name." Clay spat red again. "Widow Hart ain't worth nothin'." Isaiah's jaw tightened. Then he hit Clay once more. Flat, heavy, final. Clay collapsed face first into the drift, the snow swallowing his breath, the torch guttering out beside him. The other men froze. They looked at Clay Vane, Odessa's son, Stillwater Ridge's favorite bully, sprawled in the snow like a drunk at closing time. They looked at Isaiah. Then they ran. The storm took them, one by one, until their shouts faded into nothing. Isaiah stood alone in the clearing, chest rising and falling in slow, controlled breaths. Snow clung to his coat, melting into dark patches. His pistol hung at his side. His knuckles bled where the knife had grazed him. He turned toward the shack. Inside, Evelyn lay half-curled on the blankets, breath coming in broken gasps, her hands shaking. Pain twisted her, pulled her taut, then let her go only long enough to take another breath. "Isaiah," she whispered. He sheathed his pistol and stepped inside. The cold followed him like a shadow, but it died the moment he knelt beside her. "I'm here," he said. Her eyes were glassy, unfocused. Sweat dampened her hairline. Her lips trembled. "It's too soon," she whispered. "It's too cold. The baby can't. Look at me." She tried. He brushed her cheek with the back of his knuckles. "You hear me?" he said. "This child lives. You live. You can't promise that." He swallowed once. A hard swallow. "I can." Her breath hitched. Tears finally slid from the corners of her eyes. Not from fear, but from exhaustion, too heavy for prayer. "Isaiah, you don't have to stay." He gave a soft, humorless snort. "I ain't moving a damn inch." Another contraction hit. Evelyn arched with it, biting down on a cry. Her fingers twisted the indigo cloth. Isaiah caught her shoulders and eased her back. "Breathe deep now. Slow. Let it pass." "I can't. You already are." Her breath trembled as she forced air in, forced air out, like the storm itself was pushing against her lungs. "Them men?" she whispered. "Gone. Clay? Down." She closed her eyes, relief and agony tangling like threads. "Lord, thank you." Her voice broke, and Isaiah felt it. Deep, He looked toward the door, toward the storm still raging, toward the empty road back to Stillwater Ridge, where Odessa Vane would soon realize her son hadn't come home. Time was running faster now. The child was coming. No way to outrun it. No doctor. Only a shack, a storm, and a man who had once failed a woman and a child he should have saved. He wouldn't fail this one. Isaiah stripped off his coat and spread it across her legs, then tore a strip from his shirt to tie back her hair. "Evelyn," he said, steady as iron, "you listen to me." Her eyes fluttered open. "You ain't dying tonight." Another contraction seized her, stronger, deeper, near breaking. She cried out, the sound raw, helpless. Isaiah leaned close, his voice a vow dragged from somewhere older than his scars. "By God's hand or my own, this child sees dawn." Evelyn's breath shattered. Her fingers reached blindly, found his, held. Isaiah tightened his grip. "Stay with me," he whispered. Lightning flared outside. White snow, black night, and a man kneeling over a woman who'd been one rope away from death just hours earlier. The next contraction began. Hard, unyielding. Evelyn screamed, and Isaiah Cole, the man who had shot his way through a lynch mob, fought a storm, and faced down an entire town, bowed his head like a soldier at prayer and whispered, "Lord, guide my hands." The storm howled, the shack trembled, and the child pushed toward the world. The storm pressed against the shack like a living thing. Wind clawed at the boards, rattling them in their frames. Snow sifted through every seam, settling on the floor in thin white lines. The lantern was long dead, snuffed when Isaiah blew it out. But the faint glow of the storm outside washed the room in a cold blue breath. Evelyn's cry tore through the darkness. Isaiah braced her shoulders as another contraction crushed down on her, harder than the last, her body bowing with the force of it. "Easy," he murmured. "I got you. You don't understand." Her words came in gasps, cracked around the edges. "It's comin'. I can't stop it." "You ain't supposed to stop it." Her fingers clenched around his hand, nails digging into his skin. She shook uncontrollably, fear, cold, pain, all tangled. The indigo cloth slipped from her grip. Isaiah caught it before it hit the floor. He pressed it back into her palm. "Hold on," he said softly, "for the child." A sound escaped her, half sob, half prayer. "Lord, help me." Her voice broke. Isaiah lowered his head for one heartbeat. Just one. "Help her, Lord," he whispered. "Help me do this right." Another contraction hit. Evelyn arched, choking on a cry. Her breath came in tiny, ragged bursts. Sweat rolled down her temples despite the cold. "Isaiah," she gasped. I can't. I can't." "Yes, you can." "I'm too scared." He shook his head. "Fear don't mean you're weak. Just means you fight harder." A thud slammed against the wall outside. Isaiah's head snapped up. Boot steps. Not running. Not attacking. Slower. He knew that pattern. A man stumbling or being dragged. The storm muffled it. But he heard the grunt, the scrape, the weak curse. Clay, still alive, still trying. Isaiah's jaw tightened. Evelyn trembled. Is he? Don't think about Clay Vane. But he ain't getting through that door. Another deep thud. A body falling against the boards. Isaiah moved to rise. Evelyn's fingers latched onto his wrist, desperate, terrified. Don't leave me. He froze. Her grip was so small, so weak, but it stopped him as surely as a bullet. I ain't leaving you, Isaiah said. Not now, not ever. He eased her back onto the blankets. Outside, Clay coughed, wet, broken. Something heavy dragged across the snow, but Isaiah stayed where he was. He chose. Evelyn's breath hitched. Her entire body clenched. Isaiah, it's coming. He knelt beside her again. It's all right. I'm right here. Pain tore another cry from her throat. She bit down hard on the cloth just to keep from screaming. Lightning flashed. In the brief, blinding light, Isaiah saw her face. Pale, strained, eyes wide with fear and determination. The baby pushed low, urgent. Listen to me, Isaiah said. When the next one hits, you push, not before. She shook her head violently. I can't. Evelyn. His tone cut through her panic like a blade. Look at me. She forced her eyes open. You've survived poison, a mob, a rope, a storm, a fall. You ain't quittin' now. Tears spilled down her cheeks. She hated how much she needed him. She hated how much his voice steadied her. Another contraction hit like a wave slamming down on rock. She cried out, a sound that split the cold silence clean in half. Breathe, Isaiah coaxed. Breathe, girl. You're doing it. You're doing it. Her hands clawed at the blankets. Her breath broke into jagged pieces. Isaiah, please, please don't let me die. You ain't dying. Promise me. I already did. He moved, steady as a soldier under fire, checking the angle, watching her breath, waiting for the next surge. Outside, Clay groaned again. Then he laughed. A low, broken, hateful sound. You think you can keep her alive? He wheezed. Town'll finish what we started. Isaiah didn't turn toward the door. He didn't give Clay even a sliver of attention. His eyes were on Evelyn, her pain, her courage, her child's heartbeat hammering under her ribs like a fist against a locked door. Next contraction, Isaiah said. Push when I tell you. I'm scared. I know. Don't let go. I won't. Silence swelled. Cold, heavy, absolute. Then Evelyn sucked in a breath. The contraction hit, harder than any before. Now, Isaiah commanded. Push! She screamed, raw and holy and furious at the world, and the world screamed back in the voice of the storm. Her body strained. The child pressed. Isaiah's breath caught. Good. Good, Evelyn, keep going. She collapsed back, gasping, shaking, tears streaking her face. Again, he said. You got more in you. I can't. Yes, you can. I'm Isaiah. I'm... She didn't finish. Her whole body seized. Isaiah's eyes widened. It was time. He moved fast, bracing her shoulders, drawing the cloth aside, positioning his hands with a soldier's precision and a father's fear. Come on, little one, he murmured. Come on. Outside, the storm roared. Inside, Evelyn pushed with everything left in her: fear, pain, faith, and the last shred of strength she didn't know she had. Isaiah leaned in, steady, unwavering, breath shaking in his chest. And in the darkness, in the dead of a winter night, in a shack too small for death and too cold for mercy, Isaiah Cole felt the world change beneath his hands. The child was coming. The storm held its breath. For one suspended moment, the whole world narrowed to Evelyn's trembling body, Isaiah's steady hands, and the small, desperate struggle of a child fighting its way into life. Evelyn screamed again, ragged, breaking, a sound torn straight from the soul. Her fingers clamped around Isaiah's wrist, nails biting deep. Evelyn, he said, voice low, fierce and trembling only at the edges. You're right there. Don't you stop now. I can't. Yes, you can. You hear me? You can. Her vision blurred. Her chest heaved. The contraction hit like a wave slamming her underwater. Her cry ripped through the dark. Isaiah braced her shoulders, leaning close. Push, right now. She pushed. Every muscle strained, every breath burned. Pain split her open, sharp enough to blind her. Outside, Clay coughed again, wet, broken, barely human. You ain't saving her, Cole. You ain't. Isaiah didn't even turn. Clay Vane might as well have been shouting from the bottom of some frozen ravine. His world had shrunk to one woman and one child. Come on, Isaiah murmured, breath warm against her cheek. Come on, little one. Don't quit on your mama. Another contraction tore through her. Evelyn screamed so hard her voice cracked. She collapsed back, shaking violently, tears streaming. I can't. I can't. I can't. Isaiah took her hand. Not gently, not sweet, but firm, grounding, unbreakable. Evelyn Hart, he said, you walked through hell to get here. You lived poison. You lived a mob. You lived a rope. His voice roughened. You do not die in my hands. Her chin quivered. Isaiah, you hold on. Do you hear me? You hold on to me. The next contraction struck before she was ready. She arched, gasping for breath. Push! His voice hit like thunder. She obeyed. A sound tore from her, pain, rage, hope, all at once. Isaiah's breath stilled. His eyes widened. There, he whispered. There you are. He moved fast, steady, a soldier guiding life instead of taking it. Blood soaked his hands. Sweat dripped down his temples. His heart hammered like hoofbeats in his chest. Evelyn, he said, I see the head. She sobbed. breath fracturing. Lord, help me. You're almost there. Almost. Clay's voice slithered through the boards again, faint, fading. You think that kid'll have a life? Ain't nobody in town letting that half-breed bastard. Isaiah's head snapped toward the door. His eyes went dead cold. But he didn't move. He didn't leave her. He didn't trade her life for vengeance. He stayed. His voice came out low, soft, lethal. You're dying in the snow tonight, Clay. But you ain't taken a single word of yours with her. Evelyn cried out again as another contraction seized her. Isaiah turned back, all fury melting into raw urgency. It's time! Evelyn, push! She pushed. Her fingers clawed into the blankets. Her eyes squeezed shut. She fought like a woman fighting not for herself, but for a soul she had carried through storms, hunger, poison, and shame. And then, a sound, small, wet, frail as a candle spark, a cry. Isaiah froze. His breath hitched. The storm outside roared, but inside the tiny shack, the world went impossibly still. He lifted the child, tiny, slick, trembling, into the crook of his arm. His rough hands shook visibly, scars stark against new skin. He wiped the child's nose and mouth with the corner of the indigo cloth. The cry came again, louder, alive. Evelyn's chest heaved. Is my baby? Isaiah swallowed hard. His voice nearly failed him. You did it, he whispered. Evelyn, you did it. He lowered the bundle into her shaking arms. The child cried once more, thin but fierce. Evelyn broke. Her sobs were silent at first, shaking, breathless sobs that trembled through her entire body. She pressed her forehead to the baby's, tears dripping onto tiny cheeks. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you, Lord. Thank you. Isaiah knelt beside her, one hand bracing himself on the floor. His shoulders sagged, the weight of every fear he'd carried collapsing under him. His breath shuddered. He touched the baby's back with 2 fingers, gentle, reverent, terrified of his own strength. The child flinched, then settled. Evelyn looked up at him, tired, bruised, glowing with something fierce and soft all at once. You kept your promise, she whispered. He stared at her, at the child, at the life that shouldn't have survived the poison, the rope, the storm, the men who wanted it dead. His voice came out low and rough. I ain't breaking not one promise to either of you. A harsh cough came from outside. Clay, still breathing. The storm battered the walls harder, rattling the shack like bones in a tin drum. Evelyn stiffened. Isaiah, he'll come again. If not tonight, then tomorrow. Isaiah rose slowly to his feet. The cold followed him like a shadow. He looked down at mother and child, his face carved from something older than anger, older than duty. Then he turned toward the door. Not tomorrow, he said. He reached for his gun. Tonight. Isaiah opened the door to the storm. Cold slammed into him, slicing through his shirt, through the heat of labor still clinging to his skin. Snow whirled under the moon, furious, blinding. The world outside was white ruin, a wilderness of wind and drifting ghosts. Clay Vane lay crumpled near the woodpile, half upright, barely breathing. His coat was soaked through with snowmelt and blood. One glove was gone. The knife he'd drawn earlier lay inches from his fingers, its blade buried in the drift like a failed prayer. But he was still alive. Barely. Clay lifted his head with a grunt. His eyes were wild, pupils blown wide, mind fraying at the edges. "Cole," he rasped, voice shredded raw. You should have let the mob finish her." Isaiah stepped off the threshold. Slow, deliberate. Every bootstep crunched the snow in a rhythm older than law. "I told you once," Isaiah said. "You don't say her name." Clay spat blood into the snow. "She ain't worth the dirt she stands on." Isaiah kept walking. "You got it all wrong," Clay coughed. "Town don't want her dead 'cause she's guilty. Town wants her dead 'cause Odessa says so. The land, the depot, that baby, he ain't supposed to live." Isaiah stopped. The wind screamed. Clay wheezed a laugh. "Mama says, when the baby's gone, the land drops clean into our hands." Isaiah's breath turned to steam between his teeth. "Your mother ordered a mob. She sent you to kill a woman in labor. She sent men to burn my ranch. And you followed like a dog." Clay sneered. "Worth it." Isaiah looked down at him, something ancient darkening in his eyes. "You're done." Clay tried to stand, failed, collapsed sideways into the drift. "You ain't taken me to no judge," he snarled. "I'll die right here." Isaiah holstered his pistol. "No," he said quietly. "You won't." Clay blinked through the snow, confused. Then Isaiah wrapped a fist in Clay's collar and hauled him upright, dragging him through the snow like a broken fence post. Clay screamed as his injured arm twisted, legs kicking weakly. "No, no, Cole. What are you?" Isaiah didn't answer. He dragged Clay across the yard, past the dying torch, past the woodpile, past the footprints leading from the cabin door, to the trees, to the road, to the place where the storm howled loudest. Clay fought weakly. "Let me go." Isaiah stopped. He dropped Clay into the drift. Clay choked on the snow. You killing me here?" Isaiah crouched, fist knotting in Clay's coat again. But the grip gentled. Not soft, not forgiving, but steady. "You want to die?" Isaiah asked softly. "Fine. But not like this. Not before you face every word you done, every lie you told, every hand you raised against a woman carrying a child." Clay's eyes flickered. Fear. Real, bare fear. Isaiah leaned close, voice a low growl swallowed by the wind. "You're going to stand in front of a marshal, and you're going to speak the truth. All of it." Clay shook his head violently. Odessa'll kill me. Odessa ain't God. She controls the judge, controls the whole damn town. Not anymore. Clay froze. What do you mean, not anymore? The wind shifted. A shape emerged down the road. A lantern. Then another. Then the silhouette of a badge glinting under snow. U.S. Marshal. On horseback. 4 riders behind him. Isaiah rose to his full height, snow swirling around him. "You hear that horn earlier?" he said. "Before the storm swallowed it?" His jaw set. "I sent for them." Clay's mouth fell open. His breath fogged, shaking. You tricked Mama." "No," Isaiah said. "I outlasted her." The marshal's horse whinnied as it approached, hooves crunching on the frozen ruts. Torchlight danced off the snow, painting Clay's face in gold and red and ruin. Marshal Briggs dismounted. "Evening, Cole." "Marshal." Briggs looked down at Clay. "This him?" Isaiah nodded. "He's got a whole Bible's worth to confess." Clay's breath came in broken gasps. "No, no, she'll kill me. She'll kill." Isaiah knelt again, gripping Clay's chin, forcing his gaze up. "You tried to kill a woman bringing life into the world," he said softly. "The Lord saw that. I saw that. And you're gonna answer for it." Clay's face crumpled, not from pain, from defeat. Isaiah stood and stepped back. Marshal Briggs hauled Clay to his feet, slapped irons on his wrists, and ordered a deputy to escort him. Clay didn't fight anymore. His strength was gone. His purpose gone. His mother's power cracking like ice under weight, Isaiah watched them lead him away. When the last lantern turned down the road, swallowed by stormlight, Isaiah exhaled, a long, exhausted breath that fogged into the cold. Then he turned back toward the shack, back toward the faint wail he could just barely hear through the boards. A child's cry. Newborn. Alive. Waiting for him. Isaiah's boots crunched through the snow as he retraced his steps. When he reached the threshold, he paused. Just one heartbeat. Then he passed through the doorway and shut the storm out behind him. Evelyn looked up. She was pale, exhausted, hair damp with sweat, the baby bundled against her chest in the indigo cloth. Her eyes were wet, fear, relief, everything in between. "Isaiah," she whispered, "is it over?" He stood there, chest rising and falling, snow melting down his coat, hands stained with blood and storm. He looked at her, at the child, at the miracle he hadn't dared hope for, and for the first time that night, Isaiah Cole let himself soften. "Not yet," he said, "but it will be." He stepped toward her, toward them, toward the life he had just fought dawn and death to protect. Isaiah shut the door behind him. The storm hammered once in protest, then dimmed to a bitter moan. Snow hissed through the cracks, but the shack felt warmer now. Because of the child's thin cry. Because Evelyn Hart was breathing. Because Isaiah Cole had come back. He shrugged off his wet coat, steam rising from the fabric. Evelyn watched him with heavy, half-lost eyes. The newborn fussed against her chest, wrapped in the indigo cloth. Isaiah stepped closer, boots whispering over the warped boards. "You're hurt," she breathed. "I'll live." Her gaze lingered on the blood along his knuckles. "Clay, did he—" "He's not coming back tonight," Isaiah said. "Marshal Briggs has him in irons." Relief broke in her chest. She closed her eyes. "Thank God." "He'll talk," Isaiah said. "About the poison, the depot, all of it. Your husband gets the truth back." Evelyn nodded weakly. The baby whimpered, and she shifted, wincing at every movement. Isaiah's voice softened. "May I?" She hesitated, then nodded. He lifted the child carefully, hands rough but trembling. The baby quieted instantly, tiny breaths warming the inside of his wrist. "She's strong," he murmured. Evelyn managed a tired smile. "She—" Isaiah's eyes warmed. "She—" For a long moment, he just held her, staring like he'd found something he never expected to touch again. "You saved her," Evelyn whispered. He shook his head. "You did. I just steadied the ground under you." Her throat tightened. "Isaiah, I prayed. I thought I was dying. I asked the Lord to send someone who'd hear me." His jaw tensed. Not hard, but deep. "You called. This time, I heard." A quiet fell between them. The newborn, now dozing, curled her tiny fist around Isaiah's thumb. The storm outside softened, wind falling into a slow, tired sigh. Evelyn swallowed. "What happens now?" Isaiah returned the baby gently to her arms, then placed a steady hand on the blanket covering them both. "Now we go home," he said. "My ranch, warmth, safety, a bed that ain't a death sentence." "And after?" His eyes held hers, calm, certain, unmovable. "After that, we finish what Odessa started, in the light, in front of a marshal, with every truth spoken out loud." Evelyn nodded slowly. Fear hadn't left her, but it no longer owned her. Not with her daughter breathing. Not with Isaiah standing 3 feet away, storm melting off his shoulders like it didn't dare touch him anymore. He helped her rise. She held the baby close, trembling but steady. Isaiah pushed the door open. The storm had softened to a drift of gentle flakes. Quiet, slow, like winter finally letting go. "You ready?" he asked. Evelyn drew a deep breath. "Yes," she whispered. "For the first time, I am." Together they stepped into the snowy night. The woman who survived, the child who wasn't meant to live, and the man who chose to stand between them and the world. Dawn waited somewhere beyond the ridge, and so did justice. Dawn broke like a blade. Not gentle, not warm, just a cold line of pale gold cutting across the mountains, slicing through the night that had nearly taken them. Isaiah Cole saw it first. He stood at the ridge above Stillwater, coat whipping behind him, breath turning white as smoke. Evelyn sat in the wagon below, baby tucked against her chest, wrapped in the indigo cloth that had survived poison, storm, and blood. They had moved before the sun woke the town. They had no choice. Odessa Vane would have heard by now, her son taken in irons, her men scattered, her plans cracking down the middle like a frozen river under weight. Isaiah didn't let Evelyn see his worry, but it sat in his shoulders, in the way his hand hovered near his gun, in the way he scanned the quiet town like it was a coffin they were walking into. He stepped down from the ridge. "We go straight to the marshal's office," he said. "No detours, no stoppin'." Evelyn nodded. Her voice was soft, worn thin from labor, but steady. "I trust you." Those 3 words landed on him heavier than any bullet. He didn't answer. He just climbed into the wagon seat beside her and flicked the reins. The horses pulled forward. Stillwater Ridge lay ahead, snow-covered rooftops, silent windows, a church steeple poking the gray sky like a warning finger. The world looked calm. It wasn't. As they rolled down Main Street, curtains twitched, shutters cracked open, people stared. A rancher's wagon, carrying a woman they'd tried to hang 12 hours earlier, now entering town under dawn's thin light, alive, holding her newborn daughter, and flanked by a black rancher with a gun on his hip and fire in his eyes. Whispers chased the wheels. "That's her. She should be dead. She gave birth? And Cole, he's claimin' the child." Someone spat into the snow. Someone else crossed themselves. A drunk outside the saloon staggered backward as if he'd seen a ghost. Evelyn kept her eyes on her daughter. Not on the hatred, not on the fear, not on the shame they had tried to drown her in. Only on the child breathing against her heartbeat. Isaiah slowed the horses in front of the marshal's office. Marshal Briggs was already waiting. Snow dusted his hat, frost whitening his mustache. 2 deputies stood behind him. One held Clay Vane's written confession. The other held a warrant sealed under territorial authority. Briggs looked at Isaiah, then at Evelyn. "Morning," he said quietly. Evelyn nodded. "Morning, Marshal." He glanced at the baby, softened, then hardened again. "Odessa's holed up in her parlor. Claims you 2 broke half the laws in Montana territory." Isaiah stepped down. "We got more truth than she's got lies." Briggs lifted his chin. "Then let's finish it." They walked to the Vane estate on foot. Stillwater Ridge followed behind them like a funeral procession, but quieter. No wails, no hymns, just breath on cold, air and boots crunching in fresh snow. Evelyn moved slowly, each step a wince, but she didn't falter. Isaiah walked half a pace ahead, ready to draw if anyone so much as blinked wrong. The mansion rose before them. White columns, heavy doors, curtains drawn tight. A symbol of everything Odessa Vane believed she owned. The town, the judge, the bank, the land under their feet. Briggs pounded once. "Odessa Vane, by order of the U.S. Marshal, open this door." Silence. Then slow, deliberate footsteps. The door creaked open. Odessa stood framed in the threshold, dressed in black silk despite the hour, her gloved hands still spotless, her gray hair pinned sharp as knives. She took in Evelyn, the baby, Isaiah, her lips curled. "Well," she said, "I see the whore lived." Isaiah's jaw tightened. The townsfolk murmured. Briggs stepped forward. Mrs. Vane, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, bribery, tampering with evidence, and orchestrating the lynching of Evelyn Hart. Odessa didn't flinch. She tilted her chin. The law bends for the powerful, Marshal, not the pitiful. Her eyes flicked to Evelyn. You should have died last night. Evelyn didn't look away. She did die, Evelyn said softly. The woman you tried to kill isn't the one standing here anymore. Odessa snorted. Pretty words won't change your station. No, Isaiah said, stepping forward, voice cutting cold as iron. But truth will. Briggs held up Clay's written confession. Odessa's face cracked for the first time. Just a hairline fracture. Briggs continued, voice loud enough for the whole town to hear. Your son admitted you bought arsenic through the army supply line. Admitted you paid him to plant it in the Hart home. Admitted you pushed the judge to sign a false order so you could seize the Hart property for the railroad depot contract. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Odessa's eyes sharpened. You fools think a signature proves anything? It ain't just a signature, Briggs said. It's witnesses. It's receipts. It's a doctor's report from Helena. It's everything you didn't burn fast enough. Isaiah stepped closer. Your rule ends today, Odessa. Her nostrils flared. If the child had died, none of this. Isaiah's eyes turned lethal. Don't you finish that sentence. The baby whimpered at the sudden tension. Evelyn rocked her gently. Marshal Briggs lifted the warrant. Odessa Vane, remove your gloves and present your wrists. For the first time in her life, Odessa Vane hesitated. Only one breath. Only one heartbeat. But it was enough. The town saw it. Power bleeding out. Ice cracking. Odessa straightened, chin trembling with fury she couldn't hide fast enough. This town will not survive without me, she hissed. Isaiah met her gaze. It'll survive better without your hands around its throat. Briggs stepped forward. She didn't fight, didn't scream, didn't weep. She only whispered, Clay was supposed to outlive me. Isaiah's expression didn't change. He still might, but it won't be under your shadow. Briggs clasped irons around her wrists. The sound was small, metal on metal, but it shook Stillwater Ridge down to the bones. Odessa Vane, Queen of the Valley, was led down her own porch steps and into the snow. Evelyn swayed. Isaiah caught her elbow instantly. You all right? He asked. She nodded, though her breath trembled. It's just over. He shook his head gently. Not over, but it's beginning. Her eyes filled. She would have killed my child. Isaiah lowered his voice. But she didn't. Your daughter's breathing because you fought. Because you didn't quit. Because you walked through every hell between this town and that shack. Evelyn looked at the baby, alive, warm, small fingers curled around the cloth. Then she looked up at Isaiah. What do we do now? He met her gaze without wavering. We go home. She swallowed. To your ranch? He hesitated, then nodded. Our ranch, if you'll take it. Evelyn's breath caught. Not fear, not confusion. Something deeper, something dawning. The town held its breath as Isaiah lifted the baby's tiny hand with one scarred finger. "That child deserves a name spoken without shame," he said. "And a home that won't burn when men get scared of strong women." Evelyn wiped a tear. "What name?" she whispered. Isaiah's eyes warmed, slow, steady, certain. "Mercy," he said, "'cause that's what saved us all last night." Evelyn Hart, woman who survived rope, poison, storm, and judgment, nodded and held her daughter close. "Mercy, Cole Hart," she whispered. And dawn finally broke clean across Stillwater Ridge.